So, um, so I'm sitting here with
Carla?
Carla and Anissa, and this is an interview about the religion of. Let me say it again.
Baha'i.
Baha'i.
Baha'i faith. It's
Baha'i
spelled
faith.
Baha'i.
Okay. Okay. So, may I ask where you're from as for your background goes?
I was born and raised in Illinois, in southern Illinois. And I lived only in Illinois until I married my husband at a young age of 20. And then we moved from southern Illinois to Rolla, Missouri, then to Columbia, Missouri, then to Kansas City, and then to Venezuela. And we went to Venezuela. We chose to go to Venezuela because we wanted to serve in the Baha'i faith. Those members of the faith that leave their home country with the purpose of teaching the faith in another country, it's termed as a pioneer. It's much like the equivalent of being a missionary, but we are not funded by the faith itself. We are encouraged to find our own means of livelihood in that foreign country. And so my husband and I, with two small children, we left in 1982, and we settled in Valencia, Venezuela, and then we stayed for 12 years. And in 1994, we came back. And while we were there, our third child was born, so we have three boys, all of whom are married and have children of their own. And they're very active in the faith as well. Baha'is refer to the Baha'i faith generally as the faith, so they're very involved in the faith too.
So, Venezuela is where you spent 17 years.
Pardon?
You said you spent 17 years?
12 years.
12 years. How old were you by the time that you moved there?
Okay, so in 82, I was 28.
Okay, so you're traveling around for 8 years before you settled down to this Venezuela?
Yeah.
Okay. And so you mentioned that you're Christian first.
Yes, I was reared in a Midwest where most Midwesterners are Protestant. There were some Catholic friends that I had at school, but for the most part, most were Protestant. My family was Presbyterian, and so I grew up in a very devout Presbyterian German background, and I first saw anything related to the Baha'i faith the summer before I met my future husband. I was in Chicago traveling with friends, and we were on Lake Shore Drive. And we come around the bend near Lake Michigan, and it was at night, and I'm just immediately attracted to the beauty of this incredible structure. It's fabulous architecture, illuminated. And I asked, "Oh, what is that? What is that?" And no one in the car knew exactly what it was. They just said, "Oh, that's some temple. I think it's some faith. I think they believe in unity of all mankind." They didn't know the name of what that was. And as by chance, coincident, whatever you'd like to call it, that next fall, that was summer, in the fall, I meet my husband to be, and he is Baha'i. And so then I made this connection of, so what I saw, indeed it was a temple. It was a house of worship outside of Chicago in Wilmette. And he invited me to a fireside. Actually, his invitation was, "Have I ever had Persian food?" I said, "No, I haven't." And he's like, "Oh, well, why don't you come for dinner?" He said, "My cousin is a very good cook, and you come for dinner on Saturday." And I had nothing going on that Saturday evening, so I accepted the invitation. Indeed, his cousin Fakhreddin is an amazing cook. The dinner was like I've never had before. Everything was delicious. But the table was barely cleared, and the doorbell started ringing. And within a matter of 10, 15 minutes, the house was filled with just people from all backgrounds. They were black, they were white, they were older. There was two older sisters, very, very white-haired, young. There were guitars, there were African drums, there were Asians, I mean, there were Persians. I could feel that something is going on in this room. You could just feel this love and attraction amongst, those that had arrived. And I was like, what is... So I turned to Evaz, my husband, and I asked, what is going on? Because he had mentioned dinner. I had forgotten that he had also mentioned fireside, and I had no idea what...
Can you say that one more time?
Which one?
Fireside.
Like sitting beside a fire. So I said to him, what is going on? He's like, oh, don't worry. He said, we're going to have a fireside now. And I'm like, oh, what? What? He said, not to worry. He said, I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Baha'is have these gatherings. They're very informal, of friends and of their friends, and they just address current issues, but from a Baha'i perspective. So, for example, that evening's topic was the importance of education. And the one who was speaking, she had just returned from a conference where they were training teachers of children's classes. So these children would learn more about spiritual qualities and attributes such as truthfulness and service and humility and these qualities that we all would long to have and to develop. And she had wonderful pictures of children that were from all over the world. And so her presentation was very attractive, and I was just drawn to what I was hearing. And then I felt very shy that evening. There was a time for questions, and I was not going to I was not going to say a word actually. But it was very interesting to me because she, without my even asking, she was answering these long burning issues that I had. I was only 18 at the time.
Oh, but so this is when you were 18?
I was 18.
And you were already exposed to the
Baha'i faith.
Okay.
And one of the questions that I had was, why are there all of these churches or all of these different religions, and yet they don't, are they all from the same source? Because they all seem to say that they are the one and only.
Oh.
And the other question I had was race. Well, we are all children of God. So how is it that some can think? How is it possible that some can think that they are superior to others just because of their skin color? I didn't buy into that. I found that very foreign.
Yeah, me too.
And the importance of education, that was so heartfelt. For me, at that time, at that stage in my life, the education of children was just really important. No matter from what background someone was from, I felt it was their birthright to have that opportunity for education. And I learned that night that in the Baha'i faith, one of the teachings from Baha'u'llah, the founder of the faith, his name is translated, means the glory of God. I learned that if a Baha'i family were in such an economic stage that they could only, and they had both genders of children, they had boys and they had girls, but they only had finance to educate one or the other, the boy or the son or the daughter, who would have the priority?
Who's governing that?
Pardon?
Why was it some system saying you can only educate one or the
No,
other?
I'm saying that if it were the case that financially they could only afford if a family was in such dire strait, you understand that they only had the opportunity to educate either the daughter or the son, who would have the priority.
It's a tough one.
And the answer I learned was in the Baha'i faith, the daughter is encouraged to be educated. And the reason is because she's the future mother of the next generation. So if the mother is educated, chances are those children will be educated too.
Yeah, that is true.
Yeah. So I was very drawn to what I heard, very attracted to what I heard that evening. And I left with material to read and to study. But I was very deeply moved by what I heard that night about just the teachings of Baha'u'llah and the brief history and what I was introduced to. Is the Baha'is believe that one of the most important issues is the unity of all mankind, and that we are all from that one same source, and that.
You mean spiritually or ancestry?
Both. Apparently, scientifically, we are all a 60th cousin. Yes. So I left feeling that if I had not had the training and the family, the nurturing that I had, I probably would have heard of this faith and it would have just passed right by. But because my parents were very devout Christian, and I had that upbringing, I was very attracted to the message that I heard that night.
So how did your parents take it when you came back to tell them that?
Well, not well.
I did some...
Not well. Because, I was so young and so naive in the fact that, I should not have said what I did say, because I
understand that.
I came home, and I'm the eldest of 5 children. And my parents had this tradition, it was a habit that they would be in their bedroom, in bed, but they would not be asleep until, we children were in the house. And we had a curfew in that we had to be home by midnight. No question. We had to be home by midnight. So I'm home, and I'm tiptoeing into the bedroom, and I'm so excited because I'm thinking, oh my God, I've just heard the most amazing thing. And I'm certain that my mom and dad will want to know.
Yeah, spread the good news, right?
And so I tiptoe into the room, and I kneel down on my mom's side of the bed. And I'm whispering now, and I'm saying, Mom, are you awake? And she's like, yes. I'm like, you won't believe what I've heard tonight. She's like, what's that? I'm like, Jesus Christ has returned. And his name is Baha'u'llah.
Uh-oh.
Oh.
I can already see it.
And so she tells me, why don't you go to bed and we'll talk about this in the morning. Well, then I go into my bedroom, and I had gotten these books at the home where the fireside was. I had gotten 3 titles. One book was about the history of the faith. Another book was Holy Scripture. It was holy text. It was revealed word, divine revealed word from Baha'u'llah and his son, Abdul Baha'i. And the third book was a basic introduction with a little bit more history. So unbeknownst to me, I had chosen the perfect 3 titles for someone that's investigating the faith to start reading. So I had Baha'i World Faith, Baha'u'llah in the New Era, and Thief in the Night. And I was brought up in a family, very traditional, in that when you pick up a book to start to read it, you read the book from beginning to end.
Right.
But that night, I found I was reading all 3 books at the same time, because I would start reading, one of them until I couldn't take it anymore, and I would close it, and then I would pick up the other book and start reading that one. And I couldn't sleep. I was just so excited about the more that I read, the more that I had accepted, yes, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I believe. In the morning, Mom and I talked, but my mother was like, she was very fearful. The name alone was too much for her. It was just too strange. So fast forward now, my husband and I have been married 40 years, and her children, her grandchildren and her great-grandchildren, I know without a doubt that my mother can see that these children, they're different because they have genuine spiritual values. They're very sincere. They're really good children, and I know she can see that. And I think that she must be able to attribute that to our faith, that our belief, because where else would that be coming from? Why is our family so unique from my other family, other cousins, their families? Because those families have had just a lot more difficulty as far as.
I'm sorry, who are you referring to?
In my mother's circle.
Okay.
Yeah. So those relatives, they've had issues with being in jail, having drug abuse, alcohol abuse, just all kinds of very serious issues that if you have a strong spiritual belief and understand what is the purpose of your life, what is the purpose of your life here in this realm. I think you conduct yourself a little bit differently, and if you're just I'm here to have a good time, let me enjoy the day, but you can still enjoy life. I'm saying, but there are limitations that
you gotta search for them sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes even if you find the answer, I think that's only a puzzle piece. You gotta keep looking. That's my experience, but
I would like to share with you something that I was just reviewing. I love, this is a holy text from Baha'u'llah. It says, O son of spirit, I created thee rich. Why dost thou bring thyself down to poverty? Noble I made thee. Wherewith dost thou abase thyself? Out of the essence of knowledge I gave thee being. Why seekest thou enlightenment from anyone beside me? Out of the clay of love I molded thee. How dost thou busy thyself with another? Turn thy sight unto thyself, that thou mayest find me, standing within thee, mighty, powerful, and self-subsistent.
Who wrote that?
This is from Baha'u'llah, the founder of the Baha'i faith. In his lifetime, he revealed over 100 volumes of books.
Where was he from?
He was born in Iran in 1817. He was born into a noble family. His family was of royalty, and his life would have been, he would have been a prince in essence. But he chose. He was a very giving, charitable man, and he became known as the father of the poor because he chose to help anyone that crossed his path.
The father
of the poor.
Of the poor.
Yes, because he was very charitable. And so he left his father's court and chose to follow a life of service, and then he became this messenger for today,
I can
the
understand
founder
that.
of the Baha'i faith. And because of his choice, even though in essence it wasn't really his own choosing, because it's like, we read in history how those, for example, Jesus Christ, His Holiness Jesus Christ, it wasn't of his choosing. I mean, the suffering, his crucifixion, I mean, these very holy personages or messengers of God, or whatever the title you would like to refer to them as, it's not of their choosing, but the enduring of their suffering and sacrifice, and then their teachings and their works, this is a proof of indeed of who they are. And Baha'u'llah was exiled for 40 years. He was banished from Iran to Constantinople, then to Adrianople, and then to Acre. And he died as a prisoner in the Holy Land. And this 40 years, each time it was another king or ruler, who banished him even further. And their logic was like, if we push him further from his homeland, from Iran, for Persia, no doubt this will be the end of it. Because he had tens of thousands of followers. But just the opposite happened, because the further they pushed him away, the more followers he had.
You came and visit him.
Yeah.
So why do you think he was imprisoned like that?
Because his teachings were in such contrast with the current day thinkings. For example, in Iran at that time, women had less right than a donkey. She was not allowed to be educated. She was forced to wear a veil. Her freedoms were very limited. And so Baha'u'llah's teaching was that man and woman have equal right for opportunity, for education, for advancement. I mean, his analogy is that man and woman are like two birds on two wings of a bird, and that if both wings are not of equal strength, then this bird cannot soar to the heavens. That both should be equally strong.
Right. I mean, similarly, like a yin yang, like you have the white,
Yes.
which is probably the masculine, and the black, feminine side, and they can't live without each other. So that's why you see the little white dot inside the black, vice versa, and they support each other as one. So and there's a lot of symbols around that kind of follow that ideology, and I totally agree with it. I kind of grew up on that kind of mindset. No one had to tell me; I just felt that was right. So yeah, I see. So what religion was dominant in the government to ban him and to prison like that?
In Iran at that time, Islam.
Both of those?
Islam, Muslim, it's the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
And how much have that changed since then?
It's gone in I think Anissa can answer that better, but it's gone in waves, like the persecution for the Baha'is in Iran. And sometimes it's less, and sometimes it's much more.
What would make that decision in the society?
It's the clergy, the Muslim clergy.
Okay.
They appear to be very fanatical, and they arouse this fanaticism, amongst their believers. And there's so many stories that she has in her family of the persecution that they endured over the years.
I've heard, I've done some research on that, and I was trying to figure out on the net, just trying to find out like what is their point of view of that religion, and people who encompass that religion, And it just seems like that a lot of people were unfair to the, sorry, I need to write this down, but how do you say that religion one more time?
Baha'i.
Baha'i. Forgive me for that.
Not a problem.
I've written it down, searched it, but I haven't been able to talk to someone about it verbally, so I haven't.
Right there.
Oh, yeah. So, okay, so the dominant, the clergy is of Islam, is that right? And Muslim, is that right? Okay.
It's the same. Some call it Islam, some call it Muslim, but
Which
it's
one
the
should I call it?
It's the same.
People who are believe in Islam, they are Muslim.
Okay, so I'll call them Muslim. I suppose Muslim, is that the right word?
Yeah, they are the same, actually.
Okay. So, from what I understand, in the Muslim sort of society, that's the only religion that you should go by, and if you don't, then you're shunned, like Sir Baha'i. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay.
In Iran, the other religions that are represented in the country, that are of minority, because the major religion is Islam.
Okay.
The minority would be Baha'i. There are Christians, and there are Jewish, and there are Zoroastrian, which is a very ancient religion. But because the Baha'is are the largest group amongst the non-Muslim religion, they are the scapegoat. They are the ones who receive the most of the persecution is directed towards them.
I see. I figured that we would live in a civilized century where they would just kind of give people the freedom of speech, but then I forget that that's not the United States, where one of our amendments are freedom of speech. You know, and
my husband's relatives, I mean, her family, several have been imprisoned simply because of their faith in the last 10, 15, 20 years, which is just, it's unthinkable. And their crime would be the equivalent of, for example, having Sunday school class for children here, you know.
So how would that work? Would they just call the police? And then
Yeah,
the
they
police
have
would
like
just come get
secret, they have spies that are in the neighborhoods, and they know, oh, you have a children's class, and then they come around, and that's it, and then you're taken off to prison. And oftentimes the family doesn't know what has happened to you for days, for weeks, for months. Sometimes, I mean, you just disappear.
So so does that go for not just Baha'i, but also Christian, Jews, and Zoe?
Yes, but I think, again, the majority of those that are receiving this persecution, this very active, is the Baha'is.
Okay. Is it because the Muslim? Is that right? The Muslims don't want to share their world with another that's rising, another group of society of people that are rising. They don't want to be 50-50 with Baha'i in this case, so they're threatened.
They are afraid that most Muslim people change their religions and become Baha'i, because in Iran nowadays a lot of Muslim people are attending in Baha'i prayer meeting, Baha'is gathering, and they change their religion. And the government don't want that, and they prison the people who change their faith, and even sometimes they hang them. They hang.
Still?
Yeah.
Yes.
The leaders.
Yeah.
Okay. So, so the Baha'i are sort of working kind of underground, so to speak. Like they have to keep it under hushed tones and then have that.
Actually, no, they don't.
In
They don't have to?
Iran, In Iran, it's not like that.
I don't think.
I don't understand what do you mean.
It's like a secret society. You know, let's say like, you know, we are a Baha'i, and then we're gonna start like a meetup, and you know, kind of like a dinner that you mentioned, like that. You know, and do that once a month or something like that, and it becomes a regular thing. More people are coming. It's not a church necessarily, but you know. And then if somebody decides to call the police on you because they spotted you, then they would arrest the leader. I mean, because that's
I don't think the Baha'is in Iran are so cautious and secretive with their gatherings. They're very open,
No,
right?
they are so careful because some people who are attending, most people are so careful because some people who are attending may be a spy, and sometimes they are, and they will call or even record the gathering, and then they will get it to government. I mean the secure. What is that?
I see.
The security. I mean. And we shouldn't talk on phone about our gatherings or even text message because all of them are controlled.
They're bugged.
Yeah. Home phone.
But still, the one element among the Baha'is that I have seen is that they are very steadfast and very courageous. In that, if they are given the opportunity, for example, her father, I was told that he was a very influential president of a bank in the state of Mazandaran, and they came and they said, we love you, Hossein. We love your work. We respect you. We have the highest regard for everything you are doing. There's just one problem, and that is you are Baha'i. If you can say that you are not Baha'i, you still have a job. But if you cannot say that, then we no longer need you here. And of course, the choice, was obvious. That he said, "Thank you," and he left. I mean, it was. So I see this quality, this characteristic of courage and steadfastness over and over among the Baha'is, especially in Iran, that they will not compromise their faith. If it's an issue of this or that, then they will remain steadfast.
Okay. Let me ask you something. Do you believe that whatever religion you may believe in, it's at heart and in spirit, and that's beyond body, flesh, and government? You believe that? So if the government and something of lower tiers ask you if you're a Baha'i, what's wrong with saying no? Because you can lie to them. Because at heart, you know you're Baha'i. That they can't take away. But you can verbalize it and lie to them. But that won't make a difference because God knows who you really are.
I never will do that because I'm lying. I'm not. I mean, if they ask me to change my religion and become Muslim, then I don't like it, and I don't like it, and I never lie about my faith, about what I
In a situation where you may lose your house or your everything you've worked for, say you worked 20 years in a career.
you know, or Prophet Baha'u'llah, he loses his all his property, all of his situation, and he suffer in prison for 40 years. And in comparison to that, and because he is my sample, he is my exemplar, I won't do that. I won't tell Allah.
Okay.
What do you believe?
Wait a minute. I'm still wrapped around my. I'm still trying to wrap around. Well, in the instance that if I know something at heart, there's nothing that can change that. Whatever happens to your bodies, if they pierce your body like Christ, or they
And excuse me,
verbalize.
if all Baha'is do that and tell that we are not Baha'i in verbal, and so there will be no Baha'i in Iran, and they can't get their right. Me and my family and the other Baha'i religions believers, they are staying and they don't tell lie because they want to get their right. If all of them said that we are Muslim verbally and inside they were Baha'i, it's the thing that the government done, and they don't consider any right for Baha'i person. We want to get our right. We are the most um, majority of other believers in Islam in Iran, and but they still don't consider any right for us. They don't let us to go to university.
Okay. Okay, so you will be willing to be jailed because you want to admit that you are a Baha'i. Now, what I'm trying to ask here is, do you have? Okay, let me ask you this: do you have to? What if you tell them that you are not Baha'i, but you are? You play a role of a person who's skeptical. You tell the government, "I don't know what I am. I am Muslim, but skeptical," and you just kind of wishy-washy like that. But you know inside you are Baha'i. I remember the question now. Now, the reason why you would admit to your Baha'iness, I don't know why I use that word, is it doesn't seem for a spiritual reason necessarily. It seems like it's for a reason to be accepted in the country. But the spiritual side is a lot more important. Why do you have to? Why would you have to let pride stand in the way to say, I am Baha'i, deal with it, arrest me or not, but there's a lot of us, you know? I mean, you can still spread the word to people about the teachings, and they'll prefer that over Muslim. But that's pride, it sounds like, to not lie, to tell them that you are just a well, okay. Is it? Would you recognize some pride in there? Do you understand what I'm asking?
No, I don't.
Okay. If someone is proud of who they are, they will verbalize it and express it, regardless of consequence. You understand that? But if you are very spiritual and wholeheartedly, spiritual and that mind and heart, that you believe in this, right? Then why have that pride in the public? When I say pride in the public, that means in front of the government.
I'm sorry. Did you have an answer? I don't see it as pride. I see it that the Baha'is are just very steadfast. They're very devout. And likewise, they are filled with humility. They're very, very humble. You will not. I do not see arrogance or pride in this picture. Um, one of the quotations from central figures regarding to be honest or to be truthful is truthfulness is the foundation of all human virtues. So from childhood age, we are encouraged to be truthful, no matter what the circumstances.
No matter the circumstances.
I don't see it as being proud.
Well,
it's more of just being honest and
if you're being,
not compromising your belief.
Would it how would it would you say that it compromises your belief by hiding your religion from government? If they were to ask you if you're Baha'i?
In that too, I don't think they're hiding, because if they're asked, they're very open.
Do you see something wrong with the hiding part? Like if you were to say that you were not of, and you were just there because you're just open-minded about it or something like that, even though deep down you are, probably one of the most spiritual Baha'i faith. Like what's wrong with convincing government that you are not as involved? What's wrong with that?
I don't know if it is the government that there is this kind of opportunity, that I don't know if it's such a just government that there would be opportunity for any kind of discussion. And that oftentimes the stories I have heard of family members that were in prison, they were just taken, and later they hear what their charge has been, or how long the sentence will be.
Well, that's very unfortunate to hear. So,
in all of this, there's still, we hear of very inspiring outcomes or stories that we have heard. One of them is the relative that was taken. Her crime, later she found out because she was teaching children's class, and she was taken, and while she was in prison, I forgot how long Rezvan's imprisonment sentence was. 5 years. At one point, she was allowed a weekend visit. She was allowed to leave the prison and go home for a weekend. And after being home for the weekend, and her husband and family are at home, when she returns to the prison, a few weeks later, she discovers that she's pregnant. She has the baby in prison. She has a newborn baby with her in prison for the remaining of that 5-year sentence. And there was an interrogation, a guard that would come regularly, like weekly for interrogation, or however, I'm not sure how often it was, the frequency, but he would come, and he had this, was extremely rude and cruel, and he had this way of just coming and knocking on the door very loudly. And then he would tell, because they believe Baha'is are unclean, that they shouldn't touch, Baha'is. So he would order her that she would be blindfolded and she should sit facing the corner. And then he was behind her, interrogating her, asking her questions. And she would have the baby with her. Until one day, if she did not answer the way he anticipated she should answer, he had a whip, and he would whip her. And one day when he was whipping her, the whip caught her glass and it hit the baby, and suddenly the baby became just started screaming. After that, every time that this guard came and just banged on the door, immediately the baby would start screaming, because the baby associated that sound with this cruelty. And so then, from that time on, the routine was then the baby would be handed over to someone else until the interrogation was finished. After some time, I don't know how long, her name is Rezvan, she understood that this guard was actually reading Baha'i literature, because the way, the questions that he was asking and the words that he was using, it was obvious that he was reading Baha'i literature. Because how else would he know how to talk, say the things he was saying? He was using Baha'i vocabulary, words that unless you were reading Baha'i material, you wouldn't know these.
The vernacular.
Right. And one day, she told him that I will not answer any more of your questions. Just beat me and leave, because whatever she would say, that would be the end. It would be beating. She said, just beat me now, and you can leave. And he left. The next time he came to interrogate her, instead of banging on the door in the loud, abrupt, cruel manner that he had, it was very slight, very soft rap on the door, knock on the door. And then she knew, she should blindfold herself, sit in the corner, face the wall, and then she's waiting. And she's waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting, and she hears nothing. Now she's becoming even more, fearful, because normally he's barking out questions and interrogating her, and there's not a sound in the room. She knows he's in the room, but she's not saying a thing. And finally, in a very quiet voice, he tells her, he said, Rezvan Khanum, perhaps you don't believe me, but this is the last time that I will come to see you. I have been reading Baha'i books, and I believe, as you believe, that Baha'u'llah is the promised one for this day. And then she said to him, why would you want to do that? Look who I am. Look who I am. Why do you choose to do that? He said, because this is the truth. And he said, I'm leaving today. He said, I will never see you again. I don't know how long this interrogation process was going on, but even in prisons, we hear of the influence of Baha'i prisoners on the guards and the other, because these Baha'is are in prison with
some bad people,
the worst kind of criminals,
right. Yeah.
And yet they have, in time, they have built relationships with and influenced, even the hardest of hearts.
Right.
Yeah.
It's pretty powerful, you gotta say. I have to say, I do admire this religion. It has a lot, I find a lot in common with it. I was also grown as a Christian as well.
Okay.
Methodist. My mom was totally Christian-based. She was from Indonesia. Came over here for college. She, let me see. She started working in the restaurants, and she was kind of just by herself. Maybe had a brother, but she went to Georgia State University. And she was totally, she was still a Christian like that. I met my dad. But as I was, I don't know, I was raised as a Christian, but when I hit high school, I started to just kind of observe things and make judgments for myself, and I kind of followed very similar things to Baha'i faith. In a way, I remember I was 17 and I thought about a lot of these religions, I didn't even know about this one. I'm not including this one necessarily. It's just a very general thought. But if a God, that if you were to explain something that you've seen of God, it would not be able to be translated into words. It would be totally lost in translation. And but if you have, like, let's say you had 6 men just looking in the same direction, and it said something, so to speak, spiritually or something like that, and then people went back to their homes and wrote, let's say, a book or a Bible or something like that they have experienced, a revelation, whatnot. Because of different backgrounds, they would all have somewhat of different things to say, totally different things, it seems, but they all have a few things in common. And that's sort of the way I see it. Like, I think Christianity fits, there can't be necessarily one religion that works for the whole wide world. Everyone have different, just like everyone have different dialects. She will never speak English like super fluent, right? I'm sorry to say that, but my
Thank you.
But what I'm saying is, as a first language, okay, you were grown that way, and that's how a mind is programmed. That's just biological. And but there are several religions that will reach out to several different types of people. There's just more and more different types of people out there in the world. So if Christianity doesn't fit for this person, well, hey, maybe this one will, and still they will, for them to find their enlightenment, or within themselves.
It's very curious that you would share that, your understanding. In the Baha'i faith, they refer to this same thing that you're describing as progressive revelation, meaning that as time progresses, God will send a new manifestation of God, or a new messenger of God, to do two things: to renew the spiritual teachings. The spiritual teachings are those that are eternal. They never change. For example, that we should love one another, we should love our parents, we should be truthful. These spiritual teachings, that we should not steal, we should not kill, the 10 Commandments in essence. That all of that is, we refer to as spiritual teachings. Those do not change. But what changes are the social teachings, and those change in accordance to the society or the civilization of that time. Because today, for example, that we have iPhone, we have internet, we have all of these technical things, which, even 500 years ago did not exist. So as mankind progresses, it seems only just that there should be another revelation or another manifestation coming from God to renew mankind's faith, in essence. So this is the connection, the progressive revelation, for example, between Jesus Christ, His Holiness Jesus Christ, and Baha'u'llah. In that Baha'is believe that as time progresses, from time to time, God sends another manifestation of God to renew those teachings.
Yeah, to keep people on the right path, to do, to keep them as highly spiritual like they're supposed to, and then evolve.
Exactly.
Not just personally, but
both intellectually,
community-wise. Right? I think that's what the Baha'i are trying to do over in Iran. They won't stand down. They're what's that? Strongstead? Steadfast, yeah. Okay. So, I once read that, I don't think think I read this, but I got the impression that the Baha'i faith sort of like touches on. He can, like, I read what he was saying about different religions and how similar they were with each of those religions. I've never really researched Muslim religions, so I can't really compare them. I mean, do they have anything in common at all?
Yes, yes. All the major religions are, in essence, the same. It's just the distinction is the social teachings.
Yeah.
So the time, for example, of Moses, for example, there was no refrigeration. So this is why you could not eat pork because how could they refrigerate? And so you would get trichinosis. I mean, you would get parasite because it was not cured or not refrigerated. So these social teachings are very important because they were for that particular time.
Era of time, yeah. So in the Baha'i, so do you pray? How would you do a prayer?
Baha'is pray daily.
Was that?
And Baha'is pray daily, and there are revealed prayers from the manifestation from the Messenger of God. From Baha'u'llah, we have revealed prayer. So we have prayer books, and we can read from those prayers if we wish, or we can recite from our own heart. But most Baha'is choose to read the revealed word, and the prayers are for there are all types of prayers.
Okay, so they mostly pray reading the I don't know why I want to say scripture. It's not scripture. It's written, but
it really depends on their background. For example, Persians, many of the Persians chant prayer.
okay.
Beautifully. My husband chants. Many of her relatives chant.
Okay, so when you chant, do you wear anything? Wardrobe? Nothing? Okay.
No, they are Muslims who should wear something. I don't know about Christian.
Wait a minute, so as a Baha'i from Persia, and you do chants, in replacement of prayers? Because the chant is the prayer?
No, they pray, they chanting the prayers.
Oh, I got you. Okay.
Yeah, but some of them just read it simply, like me.
Okay. So for those who've done chanting, what form of chantment is this? Is it like are they repeating some
And
things?
also
or are they
some English people chant. We have some.
You can see they are singing. It's to melody.
Because do they like memorize the words and then that's what they chant? Does it work
Yeah,
like that?
some of them.
Or do they chant out of their hearts and just whatever comes out?
For example, this is a very used and loved compilation of Baha'i prayers.
Okay.
Okay, and so in the prayer book, there are categories. So, for example, there are prayers revealed for assistance, for children and youth, for detachment, for the departed, for expectant mothers, firmness in the covenant, forgiveness, the fun, healing, a journey, mankind, marriage, meetings.
So
These are all specifically revealed to be used in these occasions, or not. I mean, it's your your choosing. And this is not the complete compilation of prayers that were revealed by Baha'u'llah. This is a very small selection.
okay. So let's, for instance, healing.
Mm-hmm.
Thy name is my healing.
This prayer I know from memory.
Okay.
Baha'u'llah says, "Thy name is my healing, O my God, and remembrance of thee is my remedy.
Okay.
Nearness to thee is my hope, and love for thee is my companion. Thy mercy to me is my healing and my succor in both this world and the world to come. Thou verily art the all-bountiful, the all-knowing, the all-wise. Baha'is believe that these words are endowed with special potency, special power. More than just, but we are free, if we wish, to pray from whatever is in our heart. We are free to do that as well. But we are encouraged simply because we believe that these words are endowed with a special potency.
When I write, I do the same thing. I have that same energetic wheel going. I don't know how to explain that, but like when I'm writing my own like poems and stuff like that, I know exactly what you're talking about because and when you read it, it kind of brings that back again, that whole holiness sort of feel, because it does bring that kind of enlightenment feel to it. But it is an acquired thing. Like, you can learn how to do this. I totally understand. Because I don't know. I guess it comes down to experience, life experience, to do that. But I had a question here. The healing verse that you had read or had memorized, if you do they chant things like this as well? I mean, what you said was a prayer. You can pray and say those things. I understand. But when they chant, do they say the same things? Like, can you use the same words in a chant?
Yes.
Okay. And then when they chant it, do they repeat it? Is it a process of repeating?
Sometimes, some of them.
No,
3 times.
Individual. I think it depends on the individual.
Okay. Apparently you have learned to chant before, perhaps when you were young. Alright? So, how were you taught that chant? Like, what's the difference between a chant in Persian?
Let me, I can find some in YouTube, some.
Okay, we can do that later. You can send me the videos and stuff like that, because when I write this paper, if I include this, I might be talking about just one small thing.
Question, though, I've often done that too. What you're just asking, I think I understand, is that, okay, how does one learn how to chant? I mean, is it just something that naturally?
I think it depends on practice and parents. Yeah, if they insist their child to
chant instead of reading. Okay.
Yeah. They had to do that.
Because I would imagine if you're chanting, you're about to go into a trance, mentally into a trance, and then you're.
And sometimes I chant when I'm alone. I don't want to chant in front of people. I feel nervous.
You chant things that you have memorized?
When I am alone, I can chant. But when other people are in a gathering or in a room, yeah.
Oh, I don't blame you. I'm in the same boat. I mean, I was to do my own enchantment, as deep as it is, because it's deep and I care about it, and what it does for me, I wouldn't be able to do that in front of a lot of people, because it's very personal, So yeah, I couldn't do it in front of a bunch of people. But, one way to help you, if you want to be able to do it in front of people, learn how to sing in front of 100 people. Yeah, we'll give her a karaoke place and she'll be singing in front of all these people of her favorite song. I'm just teasing. It's very nervous feeling to sing in front of a lot of people. But it's a fear. Not fear, but I don't know. Have you sung before? Do you sing?
Yes.
Have you done karaoke before?
No.
Do you know what karaoke is?
Yes.
I'm sorry.
No, I do, but no, I've not done karaoke.
Okay. I was just trying to elaborate on the feeling of speaking in front of like a ton of people you don't know. But, I'm sure.
I think it's easier from in front of people that you don't know.
Oh, is it? So that's because you'll never see them again, right? Okay. So what about rules in in terms of, I don't mean the stealing and lying part, but rules as in, you know how there are cultural differences in, say, we, okay, my cousin got married. We are of Chinese descent, and what she wore was this as a tradition. And she had to wear this red dress, this really petite, with flowery pictures or waves of lines that remind me of dragons, but they're not dragons. And I'm not sure how to explain it, but it's a dress. And she and her husband, or to-be husband, would sit on these two chairs, and then me and her other cousins would be required to walk up and I think it's kneel down and give her a red envelope. And in Chinese, like, the red envelopes usually mean like a good luck thing, and it had like money inside, and we would just give her that. That's not part of the wedding gifts. This is just part of the traditional thing. And her parents would just kind of give us the envelopes to give to them, and something like that. I don't remember the entire ritualistic thing, but that's the thing. Are there rituals with the Baha'i faith?
There are no rituals. There are no rituals. But there, for example, wedding, there is each, the to-be husband and wife, they must receive written parental consent from all living parents.
From all living parents?
From all living parents. Whether those parents have been divorced or separated, whatever the circumstances, the child must receive written parental consent. And the reason being, my understanding, is because unity in the faith is so important. And if the family is united behind this marriage, then they will be supported for that newlywed couple. Mm-hmm. From the very beginning, they will have the support of both families. And so this is that, and then there is one verse that should be recited. It's the vow that should be recited in the wedding ceremony. But other than that, there is no other. The bride and the groom are free to choose what type of ceremony they would like, where they would like to have the ceremony.
So a person can be Jewish and follow Baha'i faith.
Exactly.
Someone can be Christian and follow Baha'i faith.
They could have a Baha'i wedding. Mm-hmm. As long as they've met that requirement of the written parental consent, and then there are two witnesses that witness the ceremony.
Two witnesses?
Two witnesses.
What kind of witnesses? How would you?
The witnesses can be anyone that when this couple comes, each community has a body, because there is no clergy in the Baha'i faith. So who oversees the community activity, for example, is called a local spiritual assembly. And we're going now into the administrative part of the faith. In the local spiritual assembly, it's simply 9 individuals that have been elected, and the election is a spiritual election. It's like nothing you've ever seen.
Wow.
There's no campaigning or propaganda.
I might want to write my paper on this.
None of this. It's a very spiritual process that simply you, as a Baha'i in good standing, would write down 9 names of Baha'is that are adult age, which is 21 years or older, in good standing. And then whomever in that community receives the greatest number of votes amongst the 9, that's who serves as the local spiritual assembly. And oversees the community affairs. And so, for example, they perform a wedding, or if there's a funeral, these kind of activities that a clergy would perform, the local spiritual assembly handles those issues. And so the two witnesses at the wedding, it can be anyone that they have submitted those names, and the local spiritual assembly has said yes, that's fine.
So that is one of the most. That's one of the necessary things in a wedding when a Baha'i faith couple gets married. Is that right?
That they have parental consent, and that they recite this one verse in the wedding.
And a witness to watch it.
And two witnesses.
Two witnesses. But the witness, to find a witness, that's quite a process, right? It seems like
it's not really.
There's a lot of background to it.
It's not really.
Okay. So are there witnesses around here?
Pardon me?
Are there witnesses in Georgia?
No, it can be anyone. I'm saying no. It's just someone that
right.
serves that moment to testify. Yes, the wedding was performed on this date in this place.
Okay. Simple enough. Very good. Let's see. What time is it?
10 o'clock.
Well, it is getting late. I want to thank you for your time again.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I appreciate this very much.
It's a pleasure.
It was good.